This is journal entry number 3. It is currently November 15th at 12:29 a.m. and it is also currently 52 degrees out here, so my hands, being exposed holding this mic, are going to quickly freeze. But let me tell you, I'm also wearing what I'm wearing because I just came from work delivering pizzas, and then after work I went to Abby and Katie's apartment and we watched some Gilmore Girls, and then I left. And then I went to get the microphone because I needed to do another journal entry, because I was thinking about, like, you think about your life and you're like, what do I even talk about? Like, what's interesting enough to have a journal entry? And then I was like, there's so much that I want to talk about, actually. Like, which I think I'm going to actually talk about this. Recently, I was asked to give a testimony, and I did, and it was unconventional, but I'll circle back to that one. I also thought about politics because an event has occurred in our lives. So, like, that's interesting to talk about. What are my opinions on the politics? And, like, this is also so I can, like, look back in many years from now and see if, like, I viewed the same thing now then as I do now. And I also just thought about, like, abstract things that I can share, and, like, life recently, and, like, living on campus, thinking about a wedding. Like, there's so many things that I can talk about, but I'm going to talk about the testimony just because it was oh no. I thought I was going to burp. Anyhow, yeah, so I actually really liked giving a testimony in front of all these people, and, like, it was interesting because normally you think of testimony and you're like, what are the hardships in my life that I've overcome? But that's not exactly what a testimony is, by my description at least. I think certain, like, versions of Christians might disagree. I was saying I think a more legalistic Christian might be upset that I called this a testimony. I'm not actually sure. But so I mentioned all of this in the testimony at the very beginning, and I was like, I could talk about X, I could talk about Y, I could talk about Z. I gave specific examples. But I'm not going to talk about those at this time, and if you're interested in them, you can talk to me later, because I think it's really cool, like, learning all aspects of someone's testimony. But I said, if we're looking at the definition simply as our lives as God has worked through them, then our testimony is so vast. Like, you cannot just, like, have one testimony. Like, your whole life, like, you are a testimony to God's work. So it's like, I'm not gonna, like, and it was a 7-minute testimony, and last time I, like, gave a testimony, it was like 30 minutes, because, like, you can't really limit it. So I picked something that I could describe in a shorter amount of time, and I think I did it well. I did it to a higher of my ability, but yeah, so I chose to give the testimony of my perspective that God has given me. So, like, this is interesting now, because normally our testimony is direct actions that have happened to us that we have gone to God to help fix. And then normally we don't give the testimony until it is fixed. But I actually disagree with that aspect as well, just because every situation that happens to us affects us, good or bad. It affects us, and it has long lasting effects, no matter good or bad. So, like, somebody does something to us really awful. We overcome it, we learn from it, and we have learned from it enough that nobody else can do the same thing to us again. However, you are still going to think back on that moment. There are going to be times you see other people going through something similar, and then you go through it again trying to help them. There are just so many aspects of like every part of your testimony is ever growing, so it's never like signed, done. Like you're not done with any part of your testimony. So I thought it was interesting to bring this part of our testimony, our perspective, into it, because our perspective is ever growing, ever changing, and I just think it's so interesting, and like I want to hear everybody's perspective, and like what are the abstract ways they think, or what are the straightforward things they think, because everybody's different. Like not everybody's super abstract, but I still think everybody has thoughts that are unique, that are just like different, and it's just fun to hear. Like I like to hear it. So I don't know how good, or I don't know if this mic like cuts out outside noises. Can you hear the water behind me? The green is reading a little bit of something, so I wasn't sure if that was water. But there's flowing water behind me. There's like a little stream or whatever, and they just built a pathway here on the urban farm. Anyway, so my perspective is water, because I think water is a magnificent thing. Oh, I'm really interested to like see. I hope I can watch this in like 10 years, because I want to see what I'm saying now and like compare future self to past self. But water, I think water is just so awesome. Like I think water's one of the coolest things that God gave us here on earth, because there's so many facets to it. Like, just plainly speaking, is it still water? Is it moving water? Is it evaporating water? Is it cloud water? Is it ocean water? Is it lake water? Is it solid water? Ice? Is it... I don't know. It's just like there's so many things about water, and water is everywhere. Water is here. As I move my hand, it is touching the humidity. There's water back there. There's water I drank right before speaking. And it just like forever moves. Water is a forever moving thing. It makes its way around the entire earth. And every ounce of water that exists has processed through something. The water that you drank today in your water bottle could have also been drank by Eve or Adam in the garden. Really cool. It's so awesome. And there's different aspects of it, like, okay, I will have to do a whole journal entry about this, but I am called to missions by God. God has told me, you go into missions, figure out what that means on your life. And so I've been doing the discovery of it, and like what it means, and like the most basic way I can describe what it means to go into missions is flow like water. There's a time, like right now, I'm at college, it's my last year, and I am in a lake. I'm in a comfortable lake. I know a lot of people here. I say hi to so many people. I know them. I have my fiance here. So much of my life is in this comfortable lake that I would have no reason to ever leave. Why would I want to leave the thing I'm comfortable with? But the thing about missions is it's time to go. It's time. You've learned from your lake, but now it's time to evaporate. You evaporate out of your lake. You join a cloud with God. God moves with you over the next water source you're to go to. And then God rains down with us. and we join a new water source. And this water source can look so different, Like, is it an ocean? Are we joining the ocean where it's like everything is cycling? There's so many people all around. Everything is new all the time. There's so much to think. Or is the next water source we are to go to a creek, slow to flow, with few people, but really focusing on those strong bonds? Or what if God calls us to a stagnant pond? No movement. A stagnant pond, that the essence of the pond stays stagnant. I know that water evaporates from there, moves on, and there's cycling. It's like this place, this town, is a stagnant pond. Visitors come and go, but the essence of the town stays stagnant. What if God calls us to a stagnant pond? It's scary, and the thought of this might make us boil, might make us angry, or it might freeze us, and we might resist God's call because we do not want to go to a stagnant pond. Why would we want to go to a stagnant pond? And because, you know what else I think? I think God calls us for our own good, just as much as anybody else's. Wherever I go in life, it's just as much for me as it is for the people I'm talking to. And the result of my relationship with God, with this call, other people will be affected in like the passing. It's not the direct purpose. The direct purpose is our bond with God and where He wants us in this world. So that's pretty cool. And I know that I would go to the stagnant pond if God called me there. It would be scary, but I would go. I would also I would prefer the creek, just like my initial thoughts. I like a slow life, and I don't like too many people depending on me. But if God calls me to the ocean, I'll go to the ocean. I'll go to the biggest place known. I'll go to the most lively place. We'll see. It's just so cool because we are forever growing as people, and it's just so cool. But as long as I keep flowing with God, everything will be just fine. Something that's hard to know sometimes is everything will be okay. No matter what happens, everything will be okay. If you're imprisoned, things will be okay. If you have God, things will be okay. I'm not worried. If I'm killed, things are okay. This is our time on earth. And that's part of it too. I do believe that God does sometimes call us to our death. But with the knowledge that it is purposeful, God would not call us unpurposefully. It's not just like oops, I didn't mean for you to die. Why did I call you there? No. There's a purpose, and I think He calls His children that He believes can handle it to death. It's a hard thing. But knowing also that we are not permanently dead either. So death is not a scary thing in the full scheme of things. Because the water remains. We are still water. We do not disappear. Water cannot be destroyed. Water is just so awesome. I think just the basic value of it, knowing that is a life-giving substance, we cannot survive without it. We are more than half water. The trees around us need water. The grass, the ground, everything needs water. So I think God made water to resemble Him. I think we are to look at water and see God. I think we are to look at God and see water. Because what's the difference between water and God? Water is not alive. There is no need to worship water. We are not to worship water. But water holds God's character, holds this life-giving substance. Awesome. Water is awesome. And everywhere I look, I see water, and I see how it relates to water. I think our whole lives can be described by water. So that is my little rant about water and my testimony. And I think it went okay. I think it went okay. And after, this was a room pretty full of people, and it was like small enough to where I didn't need a microphone though, and everybody was like sitting on the floor on blankets. But let me tell you what, you know what a friend crush is? When you see somebody and you're like, you don't like have any sort of romantic feelings. It's just like you want to be their friend. You want to be their friend so bad that it hurts sometimes. So I've had this friend crush on this one guy since a year ago, which is really embarrassing. But whatever. I have never talked to him actually. And then after, he was there for my testimony, and I made eye contact with him like 3 times, and he was just like, he was looking like he was vibing. He had a smile on his face, and I was like, yes, I can keep going. So it really did. It was inspiring. That's like the first real thing he ever knew of me was my testimony. And then afterwards, we had to put chairs back in the room. So then I was the first one to move a chair, and then he directly followed to put chairs up as well. And then we were just putting chairs away. We weren't talking, and then he was like, Rico? And I just turned. I didn't even like say anything. I was just like, he's talking to me. And then he said, I really liked your testimony. It was really good. Or something like along those lines. I was in a daze. And then I was like, yeah, thank you. Like, I looked over a few times. Your smile just like gave me the energy to keep going. Weird to say or something. And but he replied with, well, I liked it. And with a smile and nod. And then we both started moving chairs again, right next to each other. And not a single thing was said any further, because the only thing I could think of saying was, hey, I've had like this like friend crush on you. It's really cool that we're talking. It's been like a year since I've been wanting to have a conversation with you. And that's all I could think of saying. And I was like, I'm not saying that. So I didn't say that. And I never talked to him again. So that's fun. But maybe we'll be friends in the next 6 months, because that's all I have left. But who knows? Who knows what life will hold? Maybe he'll be a missionary in my future. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I knew we were meant to be friends this whole time. But anyway, I like never react like that, and it was just really funny. It was really funny. And I want to know what future me thinks about that weird awkwardness that I presented. But anyway, note to future self: always flow like water and squash the crawlers. And know your space is not an empty place. Just kidding. I'm a playwright. Hopefully, officially soon, I will also do a journal entry about that. So much for the future. But that's a little quote, because it's about poetry and water. Coincidence. I wrote a whole play about water. Yeah. Also, I think about it so much that I don't even think of it as poetic. And then people said it was poetic, and that was cool, because it's like, I'm so poetic that I don't even think poetry is poetic. Or whatever. But anyway, fun times. I'm going to stop right at 20. That's going to be fun. Ready? We have 7 seconds. Stay fresh, my friends. Stay fresh, future me. Have a great life. Bye.